we did do, as well as software. But the only software is going to be licensing updates, and the hardware will not change. We'll come back and see you in the next 4 to 5 years.
All right, one other question. The software that we just purchased, that we approved last week for the SCADA system, the computer system that we are buying, is that going to be compatible to that software? Or am I going to sit here next year and say, oh no, now we got the software and it doesn't work in this computer system? I'm just saying, I don't want to revisit computers again. If we pass this replacing everything, I don't want any department head to come back here and say this software don't work. You need to find out what software is going to work and need to be uniform. I don't care. Make sure it works.
2 notes on that. SCADA is completely a self-contained system. It will have nothing to do with anything we're replacing. That is its own system. As for the software, we're going to continue to update the software, but not the hardware, not the physical machine itself. Windows operating system will not be changed until we buy new computers, but software such as Norton Antivirus will still have to be continued to be updated as our contract expires. As for Microsoft Office, that will be good for, assuming we got roughly near to 10 years out of it, we should be able to go somewhat similar to that, unless there are drastic changes Microsoft makes. But other than that, hardware will not change for 4 to 5 years. Software will continue as it's been.
Yeah. I have no more.
Anybody else? Alderman Roy.
Wesley? Nick, you know as well as I do that Microsoft is going to continue to do more and more and more. Why don't we have a plan where you're replacing these computers every 2 years? Not the whole bunch, but
Well, if
follow
we,
my question?
yeah, we fell into problems doing that. That's how it had been done previously, I think for the past, I want to say, at least 5 years to my knowledge. And we ran into problems doing groups of computers. There was different software and different hardware. Drivers were different between computer versions. So in repairing, when we had a hardware failure, in repairing them, it was a lot more time consuming. We had longer downtime on machines. And as well as that is as Manager Murmas mentioned, there were software versions that you couldn't run on certain things because computers were older with older versions. Some computers were newer. Not everything was compatible. By doing this, we'll standardize everything in the city, and one version of software and one copy will work for everybody. And then when Microsoft releases a new operating system and it's time to renew our hardware, at that time we'll also renew Microsoft software as it comes on each computer that we purchase.
I'm just finding this hard to believe too, because we're a small city. County doesn't just go buy all brand new computers all at one time. They break them down in years.
Another benefit as well of
That's-
buying them in a lump sum is we do get a very substantial discount,
I understand.
as opposed to buying 30. If we buy 90, we get a much larger discount. We essentially get a handful of computers for free.
Well, how about going into a program where you buy the computers with another municipality or government? Like with the county?
They do, that's similar to, for example, CDWG state contract, which is what we'd be buying them through. It pools all municipalities in the state of Illinois, and assuming that each municipality were to buy off that contract, that's how we get a better rate. But still, the number of computers that we purchase is going to make a difference in what our costs are as well from HP through that contract.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that takes care of that. Anything else? The pink page. Mr. Manager, please.
Yeah, thank you, Alderman Shockey. Staff was asked to investigate a potential new position within the city to concentrate on procuring grants. I did call around to our neighbors, did not find a whole heck of a lot of municipalities out there doing this. I did poll our neighbors as far as asking if they would want to go in and maybe split the cost of a full-time person. There was no interest in that whatsoever. So based on that and our historical knack for getting grants in the past, and as we continue to get more grants, right now we're working on a bunch of grants. I didn't really see it a need to bring on a designated grant writer simply for the fact that our department heads, I feel, are doing a good job applying for those grants. I know Mr. Steffen and Mr. Forrest are working on like a $600,000 grant right now. So it's and you had received in your packets a couple weeks back a grant list historically over the past 20 years what we've got. We've got a high amount of grants. I just didn't think we needed to spend money for a specific person to get the grants. So I recommended against it.
Does anybody else comment on that? Alderman Woods?
Yeah, my only comment is maybe whether we do it now or in the future, we were going to subcontract out assistance for Public Works Director because we don't need one full-time. So maybe in the future we could look at combining these two items together to make one full-time position, you know, maybe next year's budget. Thank you.
Any other comments? So, page 96, we're recommending no. Is that correct, everybody? Any objection? Nope, okay, takes care of that. Please go on.
Right, the next,
Whoa, I got a question.
Oh, we have one more.
Yeah,
Whoa.
no, the human resource.
Go ahead.
Can we go back to administration?
Page 94.
Yeah, 94, human resource. Could you give me the salary of the human resource? It's all public record.
Broken down out of the aggregate salary number, that's what you're asking for? Current?
Current, with benefits? on
Around
it?
$75,000.
How much?
Around $75,000.
With benefits?
No, that's without.
With benefits?
Oh, say $85,000.
Let's say about 90. Finance director is on administration? Correct?
No.
Okay. To my understanding, human resource department goes to these meetings. These insurance meetings, Irma, our finance director goes to these meetings too. So we're paying Brad to go to these meetings, human resource to go to these meetings. So we're paying, let's round it off to $90,000. I'm sure Brad's making over $90,000. We're paying over $180,000 to go to the same meeting that a human resource is going to. I like to look at that to go to part-time. And you can't, if the city manager, I don't know how you feel about it, but this is financial responsibility. And with technology that's there, I think we could go to part-time on that. Years ago, we didn't have a human resource. We had a human resource department, but it wasn't just human resource. This job was created with a past manager. So I'd like to bring that up into part-time and cut that back, since we're paying twice. I'd like to hear the opinion of the city manager on that.
Is that something that we discuss now or at a executive session or what? How is that done?
Well, we would, as its budget's currently constituted, obviously the position is in there. And we did previously discuss this very topic last week. I know some of you weren't here, so staff has been given direction to move forward in the direction we received last night. But if the council wants to take that up again, we can certainly talk about it again. I don't think this is necessarily the forum,
This
but it's up to the council.
executive session is a privilege. Doesn't have to go into executive session. And I'd like to talk about it now.
Mr. Mayor, do you have a comment?
You know what, I'll make a quick comment. We did have the executive session last week. vote was taken, staff was given direction. That's all I'll say about executive session.
Well, there were two aldermen that weren't there, and I think we'd like to bring it back. Alderman Woods.
Yeah, I would agree that this is probably not the forum for it right now. I don't think it needs to go to executive session, maybe to the next committee meeting to discuss it a little more in depth. I don't think it really has any bearing on the budget today, although it is something that we need to talk about. Thank you.
What,
Well, we are talking about the total budget today. So if there's a decision to be made, we probably should make it so that it's in the budget and doesn't have to be changed again. Alderman Woods.
Well, if you go through the budget as we've done, there's a lot of line items, and almost every one of them changes throughout the budget year. So if we decide to go part-time and only use 45,000 of the 90,000, then that's what we're gonna do. All these things come back to us when we get to vote on them anyway. So if we take 40,000, 30,000 out of the budget this evening, it's not gonna have any major bearing on the budget.
The only bearing it may have that I can see is that we should give direction to the manager as to whether that position should be filled again on a full-time basis or a part-time basis or whatever, so he knows what to do, or do we just have him put it off for the time being?
Well, I would agree and say if we put it off to the next committee meeting and have this conversation. I think it's gonna be more lengthy than we wanna go through tonight.
Alderman Wesley.
the position's gonna be opening soon. And if we don't make a decision now on this, the city manager has authority to go fill that position as a full-timer. I mean, this is ridiculous. We're all hired here to take financial responsibility for the citizens of Wooddale. And when we're paying two people to go to the same meetings, it's ridiculous. Not one single department head lives in the city of Wooddale. And why would they care? I know they care about the city, but their decision, they're making financial responsibility, but we're the city council supposed to make the best financial decisions for the citizens of Wooddale. Not a single department head lives in Wooddale. And we need to put that into part-time. You know what? If you want to talk about it later, give direction to the city manager not to fill that position until we talk about it then.
We can do that. I think we're not giving full credit, though, to the managers, department heads, just because they don't live in Wooddale. I don't know if we'd be able to find somebody in Wooddale to fill those positions. Alderman Coles, and then Alderman Skomarski, and we'll call a vote on it.
I have one thing to say. It's up to Jeff, who's the manager, if he's gonna fill it, or if he isn't going to, or is he gonna bring it up? But this ain't the time. We're doing a budget. Let's get the budget done. We'll talk about personnel later. And then another thing, aldermen aren't supposed to, we're supposed to do, we're not supposed to have anything to do with who hires who. We are supposed to do policy and only policy. Now, to live in the city of Wooddale, fine. If you took that, you'd have to call just about every policeman to find out if they live in the city. You'd have to find a fire department, see if they live in the city. You'd have to check everybody that works for Public Works to see if they live in the city. And you're talking about, we have approximately about 130 people employed in Wooddale, roughly. How many do we have?
Currently 98 full-time and 40, give or
Part-time.
take,
All right.
part-time, yeah.
Say 100 people. You can't have everybody lives in Wooddale. The fire department has one, if you're 10 miles or 5 miles away, you may not be hired for the fire department. Police department, I don't know what it is, but just because they don't live in the city, that doesn't say they're not good citizens of Wooddale. Use your head instead of just thinking about it. I mean, geez, holy smokes.
Alderman Sikorsky.
Well, just to reiterate what Alderman Woods said, there was a meeting last week, and the vote did go 5-0. It was unanimous, so even if you had 3 more come up here, I don't understand why you're voting on it again. We already gave staff the direction last week, and 5 aldermen unanimously chose to just let him do what he needs to do.
I will make a motion to give direction to the manager to hold off on hiring an HR director full-time until we have a chance to discuss it in committee or in executive session, whichever. Please, yes.
I would have no problem with that. Unfortunately, due to timing, I would then request that we have a special meeting for the 5th Thursday of the month next week, because I have to get this over with, because it's a burden to Brad, it's a burden to the deputy chiefs, it's a burden to me, it's a burden to everybody in my office if we don't get started on this soon. So I would request then that we do have a meeting next Thursday.
Are you talking about having an additional meeting?
Well, next Thursday is the 5th Thursday of the month. It'd be an open committee meeting. We typically don't have it, but since we do want to discuss this again, and because of the timeliness of this and the burden it is on staff, I would need to have that meeting next week.
The timing is that critical.
Well, yeah, because if we don't have it next week, then we're pushing it back 3 more weeks. That's 3 more weeks of burden on me, 3 more weeks of burden on Brad, 3 more weeks of burden on Anthony, 3 more it's a burden.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
There's no way that this city council, after the position's filled, is gonna talk about it later on. And possibly a layoff of a human resource director to go to part-time. There's no way that the council's gonna bring it up.
Alderman Woods, did you still want to say something?
I'm just going to concur with the city manager that let's have the meeting. That's what Alderman Roy Wesley wants to do, so that we can review this right away and get it taken care of. Seems to be the most prudent and expedient thing to do.
Well, we did have the memo from the manager saying that there were 3 alternatives, if I remember correctly. One being a 30-hour-a-week position, not full-time, Mr. Manager.
We do have a memo prepared. There has been some additional factors that have come into play now that would affect things, and some other ideas that myself and Finance Director Wilson are throwing around for cost savings with the Human Resource Department. So there will be some add-on to the memo you already got. But like I said, I don't want to wait 3 weeks to talk about it. If we're going to talk about it, we might as well do it next week, if that's what you guys want to do.
Alderman Wenger.
I'd rather talk about it now. When we had the prior discussion, it was 20, 30 minutes at max, so a lot of this has already been discussed. I think we can get through this if we're going to talk about it. I'm not for coming in separate next week Thursday for one topic, when we can do it in the next 20, 30 minutes. So I say do it now.
May I go outside the scope of up here? I think we have in an audience somebody who was at one time our HR person. Is that so? Is that Mrs. Aragoni? Do you remember how much time it took you to do the HR position? How much? I'm sorry? I don't think it's appropriate to speak to that. Oh, Mr. Manager,
Yeah, I was going to say, with all due respect to our audience, I'm sure Ms. Aragoni would agree that, 15, 20 years ago is much different than today. So the hours would be drastically different.
has it been that long? 10.
10.
Okay, Mr. Wesley, and then I am looking for a motion.
Here's,
one way
here's
or
my
the other.
question. Jeff just brought out something that he has been discussing in that memo, okay? So if he's got something that he's coming forward with this council, unless you get that tonight here to look at, then I suggest we have that meeting, because if he's got some way of cost savings, which he just made the statement, that they are looking at some other options, then let's bring it forward. That's why it says if he's got it done, then have the meeting next week and let's get this done with. Because unless he's going to produce that evidence right now on what, or that, those topics for cost savings and show it to us, then, I'm not going, one week we talk about here and then all of a sudden this memo comes to us in our packet and now we make another decision. You know what, if he's got some ideas, then let him bring it to us.
I think that's an excellent idea. Mr. Manager, what do you think about that?
I can try to do it now verbally. I don't know if I'm that slick, though. I'm still kind of formulating the strategy, but we can kind of try to work it out. It would essentially be almost a part, if we had a part-time position, the savings we would have with that would be almost the same as if we had a full-time position, but change job titles, change salary range. It would almost be the same. We're proposing keeping the full-time, but putting it almost as a part-time pay scale, essentially. The details of that, I don't know if you guys need to worry about that, but that is kind of the rough plan. To have a full-time employee, but have a big savings as in like a part-time employee cost compared to what we have now.
I said, that sounds interesting. I don't, evidently you can't give us the whole story right now.
Well,
But I'd like to look at that and before.
just look at it as if you're gonna, if our current employee was making $75,000, okay, to be a full-time employee, our idea is for the next employee to make $45,000, $50,000 for being a full-time employee.
Oh, I go for that. I'll make a motion that we follow the manager's advice and save some money.
Is this a,
This is a direction we're giving,
Yeah.
but we have to vote on it.
yeah, I know. Is this a full-time position?
It's a full-time position, but it's you're getting the benefit of a full-time position for essentially the cost that you wanted for a part-time position.
How much?
We're looking at $50,000 plus some benefits
Instead of 75.
instead of 75 in benefits. Well, actually 79 in benefits come May 1.
Just, so it's 45 plus, 50 plus benefits, so it's 70,000
No, it'd more be like 60.
versus 90.
65. So 65 versus like 89 or 100, sorry.
Okay, I make a motion that we give the manager direction to follow that theme and make it a 65,000 total.
Correct.
So,
Second.
good. Question?
Question.
So could we take the difference of that out of the budget?
Sure. Well, certainly.
So salaries would be decreased by 25,000.
There's actually 4 line items that would ultimately be affected. The salaries line item would go down. The FICA expense line, the IMRF expense line, and the health insurance would be a wash. So those 3 line items, the salaries, the FICA, and the IMRF, would be the ones that would be affected.
Well, right now, the total for administration is 327,290 with that 750 change. How about if we make that 33,000 $320,000, no, that's not, 300,000 even. Make it 300,000 even, with the direction to follow up on what the manager's ideas were. Could we do that?
No, just gotta take it out of salaries. You gotta do it from salaries.
Well, it would come out of salaries, but I'm talking about the bottom line would be $27,000 less. You can take it out of salaries and then.
Yeah, after
add it up that
calculating
way.
it all through, correct, yeah.
Yeah. Have everybody agreed to that? Yes. Raise your hand if you do not.
Oh, no.
One disagreement. Why don't we go that way and finish it, Mr. Manager?
And I just want to let you guys know, if I can't make,
Now we're voting on it again.
You're out of order. Go ahead.
if I can't make our plan work, then I'll certainly bring it back to you, and I won't go, out of bounds of that plan. So we think the plan could work, and we'll keep you updated on it. I just want to move on this now, so we're not burdening everybody else, and we think we can still get the cost savings. So, but if it doesn't go right, then we'll let you guys know.
Good enough. That's fine with me. Everybody else? Good. Okay. You got that. It's $27,290 less for that total budget. And we'll move on then to what?
97.
Question.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
So we're on page 97, and basically you're taking 27,000 and change off is what you're
Yes.
doing? And you're gonna split it up between salaries, FICA, and MRF?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanna make sure I'm on the right page, that's all.
Okay? Sounds good to me. Please continue, Mr. Wilson.
Actually, at this point, Mr. Fashoda and I are going to switch roles, and I'm going to run. At this point, Mr. Fashoda and I are going to switch roles, and I'll run the computer for him. So,
Okay, if you turn to the clerk department, we will go from there. There isn't much of a big change here.
Which one? Which pet tab?
Clerk, the city clerk.
Okay,
If you go to the expense page on 101,
right?
just looking at the salaries here, subtotal for personnel, it's up about $3,400. That's just general increases in salaries and the corresponding expenses. Contractual is up $500. Other expenditures is up about $600 for a total up about $5,000 for the year.
Mr. Roy Wesley.
Professional services. Give me an example of professional services in the clerk's office.
At the codifier fee?
What is that?
Codifier fee.
Correct.
Okay. How about education and training? Is this a type? What's this for?
Please do.
Those would be clerk certifications.
From 5, okay.
And further training and courses to, if there are any updates with the clerk, they go to courses to further advance their knowledge in those.
Would that come under conferences and meetings?
No, that's a separate, go ahead, please.
Conferences and meetings is for IML and the drive down and et cetera.
And can I go on miscellaneous?
Miscellaneous. Mr. Manager.
Actually looked at that myself today in Springbrook. Some of the items I saw in there were badge and wallet and miscellaneous stamps. I know we have a postage account, but there were some stamps in there. I mean, not postage stamps, the special stampers, like received, timestamp, things like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Like you get it from Office Depot, custom-made stamp that's like date received this or they have special stamps that they need to have, city seal stamps, official stamp of the clerk's office, things like that. Those are some of the things that would be taken out of miscellaneous.
But, okay, then go to, go to the next line, other expenditures.
No, that's a aggregate category for,
Okay, I mean, you got a difference of what, $500? For the miscellaneous? Am I seeing,
well, that doesn't mean that's going to be the exact number. Sometimes with these budgets, if you've got the previous years, you see how it was higher, so you kind of try to take the average of the three potentially. You don't want to come in under budget. I'm sure if the council likes, we could lower that another $750.
lower than another 750?
Yeah. Yeah,
Lower to 750,
sure.
lower to another 750?
If that's what the council wants to do.
Okay, is that your recommendation?
Sure.
I'll make that, okay. I'd like to.
Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, we would lower it to $750.
What's that?
Under miscellaneous, to lower it to $750 instead of 1,000.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to make that change.
I'm not gonna do the arithmetic, you'll do that.
Wait, you gotta ask the question.
Does that everybody feel okay about that? Give you a nice warm, cozy feeling, okay? Yes, everything's fine. Please continue.
Just to confirm, that's all with the clerk? Is everyone okay with?
Everybody, are you finished with the clerk? Well, there is another part I think comes up in legal about the clerk. Okay, community development?
Correct. Moving on is community development. Looking on page 105, starting with personnel, there's an increase of about 24,000. There's just increases in salaries and the other expenditures. Contractual, it's up about 2,300. Commodities, it's actually down about 800. Capital outlay remains the same at 500. And other expenditures remains the same at 17,500.
Now, just so I understand, we have stipends in there. And the stipend, if I know correctly, is they get money extra if they don't have an accident over the past year? Is that correct?
Correct.
And this is for what department? Community development?
Correct.
When do they have to drive to need that stipend? Is there anybody union in that department?
There are 3 union employees and they drive every day. 2 of them do.
But that's only $200, so shouldn't it be 400 instead of 600?
Every union employee, so there are 3 in the community development, they get $200 per person, so that is a total of $600 per the union contract.
Okay. And the standby pay is, for instance, Joe Johnson and John Flander? Okay, questions?
No. Next section.
No?
What was the stipends for? I missed that.
Would you explain the stipend?
The stipends are safety stipends. Every year, per the union contract, every union member, they get hurt on the job, they're given a safety stipend.
That's fine, I'll take that.
That's union,
That's fine, we'll take it
okay. Go ahead.
That's the community development? Is everyone general
Other
consensus?
expenditures,
Total other expenditures
Development.
is 17.5.
pardon me?
The total other expenditures is a total of 17,500. It's the same as the budget last year.
You have it.
And you've got 15,000 here for economic development. What is that for, actually?
I will actually have to defer that to Mr. Forrest.
Yes, just to clarify, that is not a separate item. That is included in that total of other expenditures. So that 15,000 is part of that 17,500. And the economic development line item is a new one that we put in last year, as you recall, to allow us some monies to be able to use to try and increase the economic development opportunities for the city. For example, some of this money is what we're using to produce the videos, which we anticipate to be finished probably by the middle of next month. We need to have those, they want to be finished, so that Mr. Clicker will have those available when he goes to the ICSC National Conference. There are local ICSC functions, the funds to attend that come out of this budget. I'm sure you all got your invitations. Next week, we're having a local real estate broker business meeting at Salt Creek. We're going to be sharing the costs for that function with Choose DuPage. And then also, there was some monies put in there that we're going to be using to redo the economic development part of the website as IT is able to get that developed. Next year, we're planning on trying to expand the conference attendance a little bit. We will probably be having to share a little more of the costs with Choose DuPage for some of these economic development conferences. This past year, they've been kind of shouldering most of the costs for those. There is an additional organization that Mr. Clicker would like to join. It's the International Association of Economic Development Professionals. They meet and they discuss what sort of economic development incentives and programs are the most effective and are working in other communities. So I think that'll be a good source of information for us to learn. So, and then again, we'll hopefully get the website to the point where, you know, we'll be able to revise that as well.
Comments, Alderman Wesley. Alderman E. Wesley.
I'm sorry. I have a question on maintenance of vehicles. Why is it jumping? Do we add in another car in that maintenance thing?
You're talking about the $2,000 item?
Yeah.
All right, we had $2,000 in this year's budget. We haven't had to use any of that. The main reason for that is the older car that was being used by our employee that retired and was not replaced. You know, he was using the older vehicle, but again, our vehicles are 1 year older. One of the vehicles assigned to community development is out of warranty. It's the older Ford Taurus that Mr. Johnson uses. So it seemed prudent to put a little bit of money in there. With the cost of car repairs today, it wouldn't take much to run up a $2,000 bill. As far as the two newer cars that we have in the department, we don't anticipate any costs with that.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
I have one more.
Fire department review service, those are the plans, I take it?
Correct.
We can't do that in-house?
We do very similar reviews in-house to the type of reviews that the fire district does. Again, this kind of and I still feel strongly about this. I think it's important to keep the fire district in the loop, doing the plan reviews and going out in the field doing the inspections. Because when there is an incident out there, the guys who are wearing the coats and riding the fire truck, when they go to a building, they need to know what to expect in there. They need to know what the floor plan is. So, you know, again, it's, you know, we try and keep that as a minimum. If there are minor projects that are being done in the commercial and industrial park, we will do those plan reviews.
When you're talking about inspections, though, have they been doing their inspections? Do we get a list from the fire department of them doing their inspections?
We get an accounting from them for every time they give us an invoice, they itemize, you know, what the addresses are that they've been inspecting. These are just,
So they're charging us for inspections now? To go out and inspect a building, which is under they're supposed to be doing it anyways?
well, these are the plan review fees. They charge us the plan review fees. They typically include an inspection in that. If there's re-inspections, then there would be fees involved.
But not what I'm saying is they're not going into businesses and doing their inspections like what we what we require on a business license to an inspection.
No, these are the inspections that they're doing that are tied in with building permits.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yeah, the plan review, fire district plan review services. These are the plan review fees that they're charging us to do the plan reviews that are involved with building permits that we issue.
Okay, I would suggest, I would thinking about subcontracting it out, but I would agree on what you're saying, and let them review it. Economic development, is that the video that we're gonna see that we're supposed to be done? I mean, are we gonna finish it?
The
I mean,
fees
it's
are
supposed to
coming
be
out of that,
done
yes, yeah,
For the website, right?
correct.
So it will be done.
It will be done, and
month.
before it can be, yes, it should be done next month. That's what we're anticipating.
Is that 15,000 from economic development, does that come out of tourism funds?
That's a Mr. Wilson question.
It sounds like it should. I mean, it's promoting the city. Wouldn't it be a good place for tourism funds to be used?
I'm not going to commit to an answer on that one, but as presented in this budget, this money is coming out of the general fund.
Is out of where?
The general fund is coming out of the general fund. You know, I guess that's more of a question of, you know, is having a realtor summit and putting videos on, if, you know, if the council feels that that's, you know, to promote the city and things like that, we could move it. However, it felt more appropriate in here since Mr. Clicker is the one, you know, doing the economic development. That's where he's budgeted out of. It seemed more appropriate to stay in there. But if we want to move it, we certainly could.
Alderman Roy, Wesley.
You guys are talking two different things here. You're talking about the conference at Salt Creek, and what I'm hearing from you is the video that's supposed to be going on the website. Am I,
Both of those items are coming out of this $15,000 line item.
Alderman Shockey was saying, correct me if I'm not wrong, if I'm wrong, that the video could come out of tours.
A number of things that you mentioned, I
I
thought.
mean, you guys are not on the same page here, what we're saying. What I'm asking, the video, that's, Mr. Manager, you know exactly where I'm going with this.
Sure, let's just take the whole 15 out of tourism. How about that? That sound good? I think we can do that personally.
Would you repeat that, please?
I think we should take the whole 15 out of tourism and cut the discussion short because
Good.
that's probably where it should be.
Everybody agree with that?
Agreed.
I agree.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
I have a question for you. John, on the fire inspections review service, who's doing inspections, who's doing the plan review over there?
Most of the plan reviews are done by a consultant that they've hired back, Scott Schneider, and some of the plan reviews are also done by their, in the fire protection district. I'm sorry, in the bureau.
Who takes the liability after those plan reviews are reviewed? Do they sign off on them, or do we sign off on them?
They sign off on the plan reviews, yet we review their results before the permit goes out.
All right, let's do a follow-up on that question. I know they hired back a consultant. Now that's like us outsourcing plan reviews. My question is, the other guy that's over there, do we know if that person or persons certified, have a license to do these plan reviews? Do you know for a fact that they have a license to do plan reviews? Or do they just look at the plan, sprinkler system's good, this is good, this is good? I'm a little hesitating on that because we still put our name on that permit when we issue it. And if they aren't fully licensed, whoever's doing the plan reviews, then I have a problem there. Because we put our city in a jeopardize. Am I right or wrong?
It really depends on the complexity of and the scope of work of the project as to who we send the plan review to. We also use independent plan review consultants. We've had, as was mentioned by Mr. Wilson earlier, we had a couple of very large permits for some industrial remodelings go out. Those fire plans were sent to a consultant that deals specifically with fire plan reviews. Those are pass-through fees, so the city does not pay those. The permit applicant would pay those fees.
But why couldn't we not take the pass-through of these other ones and pass them through the development for a permit? I just don't know if, and I'll be totally frank, I don't know if they got certified licensed people do plan reviews over there, except for one guy that I know is licensed. That I know for a fact it's been licensed. Have you asked for their licenses?
They are licensed through the state as fire inspectors.
But for plan reviews, or why can't we just pass them through like you said earlier?
Well, again, it depends on the scope of work of the permit. If it's a small industrial commercial permit where somebody's not going to be installing a new sprinkler system or redoing a sprinkler system, we're looking at rated partitions, we might be looking at exiting, we might be looking at, what sort of quantities of hazardous materials are going to be in the site. Our department looks at that as well.
I'm just looking at the liability that we're signing off on.
One more and then we're done, Roy.
Scott Snyder's a consultant now. Is he a licensed consultant? Why can't we hire him? Is he a licensed consultant on his own?
We could hire him if he would be amenable to that.
Okay, but is Mr. Snyder a licensed consultant? That
He's
takes the liability?
he's certified with his, well, I would have to talk to him and find out exactly what his qualifications would be if we were to hire him as an independent consultant. Right now, he works through the Bureau. We send the plans to the Bureau.
Yeah, so that the Bureau's, we're paying the Bureau and they're paying Mr. Snyder, where we could go right to Mr. Snyder possibly. Something to look at.
Anything else? Mr. Mayor?
Brad, just for clarification, since Jeff said it was okay to take it out of tourism, so in tourism fund, we're gonna be a negative $30,689. I'm just changing the numbers, right? Take an extra 15,000, so the ending balance also go down 15,000, is that correct?
That is correct.
Just so I got my numbers straight.
Correct.
I think we're done with that. Alderman Wood, last comment.
Thank you. John, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, most of the liability goes back to the engineers and architects when they submit for these permits for big projects or small projects, whether it's you reviewing them, the fire department reviewing them, the ultimate liability, as does your little stamps say, go back to the engineers and architects that drew inspect the plans. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Next item. Anthony?
Moving on from community development, next tab is IT. This is just in there. It's a roll through from prior years. It will be dropped off when there are all zeros on this page. Everything from IT was moved into the admin department that we talked about.
No questions, right? Good. Next is finance.
Next is the finance department. We will come back to the green page. Moving to page 112, starting with personnel. We have an increase of 20,000. That's increases of general salaries, and that also includes a part-time intern in the summer. Contractual services up roughly 11,000. That does have to do with the green page, which we will come back to. Commodities is up 1,300 due to uniforms increasing. Other expenditures is up roughly $500 due to conferences and meetings, for a total up about 3,200.
Okay, let me ask some questions I asked earlier, but I'd like to make sure they're clarified. Number one, overtime pay for personnel. What personnel do we have in finance that needs overtime pay?
That is the accounts payable and accounts receivable employee, and myself.
How about stipends? There's that word again.
Correct. Those are the same stipends that are included, the same classification, safety stipends. We do have 2 union employees in the finance department, and just like in the CD, it is $200 per union member, and that is per the union contract.
And they don't actually do any driving, though.
It does not include just general driving. Any kind of safety provisions.
It's not falling over a cord or whatever.
Correct.
Yes, Mr. Wilson.
And not to steal Mr. Fischetto's thunder, we did have one employee last year that actually tripped and sprained their ankle walking through the hallway, and that did qualify as an accident, so they did not get their safety stipend as a function of them tripping and having to go to the hospital for a sprained ankle. So it does come up every now and then that an office person wouldn't get that stipend.
Was that cord taped to the floor?
It was just in the hallway. I think a tile jumped at him or something.
Okay. Farther down, professional services under contracting services, contractual services, number 34.
Correct. That increase is due to the green sheet. The expanded level item, if you turn back to the green sheet, this staff is requesting a third party to come in and assist with water bill payments. Currently, the finance department, we process about 3,000 pieces of mail every month with the assistance of this third party. It takes us generally 3 hours a day, depending on the day. Heavy days like due date, I believe last month in January, it took a combined manpower of 16 hours. All 4 of us in the finance department were doing water bills. It takes a vast amount of our day to process these water bills. The third party doing these 3,000, I believe they said they can do, if they got all 3,000 at one time, they could do that in 5 minutes.
And somebody there could do HR too. Last one, uniforms. 21 under commodities.
At the time of this budget, when we prepared it, we were looking into the uniforms. We had some questions. Since the time we, in the finance department, have had those questions resolved, and we do find it appropriate to drop that uniforms from 2,000 to 1,000.
Any other questions, comments? Either Alderman Wesley, Roy first this time.
This green sheet, is it it's a service, it says professional services. How much is of a part-timer or seasonal?
If we use a seasonal, if we go with a seasonal, for example, the intern that we're getting just for the summer, couple months, 3 months, it's 5,000, and that's just salary. There's not including FICA, IMRF.
So just 10,000 for the year?
Correct. This 10,000 is for the full year.
Thank you.
And Mr. Eugene Wesley.
So your uniforms now drop down to 1,000? Did I hear that right?
Correct. We are suggesting it goes from 2,000 to 1,000.
And my question is, last year it was 700. So why did it increase so high? And whose are they for?
Any other comments? Or are you still going? I'm sorry.
And who are they for?
These uniforms are for all the employees in the finance department. All 4 employees. Which, as I stated, include 2 union and 2 non-union employees. So it's half union, half non.
Let me ask you this question. Have we always bought uniforms for the union employees?
As for the time that I've been here and as far back as I've looked, yes, we have.
Let me ask you this question to the city manager. Have we buy uniforms for every city employee that's a union member, like Public Works and all that, or do they buy them themselves?
Speaking public
Across the
works
board union
unions or
personnel.
police unions, or because I believe there's different.
Police unions get a clothing allowance,
Correct.
okay? That's in their contract.
Correct.
That's negotiating. What about all the other employees?
Well, all unions have a clothing allowance.
So you try and tell me these people get clothing allowance? These two union people? Okay, thank you.
Everybody go, are you finished?
He didn't answer the question. I'd like to hear the answer.
Okay, I think it's 9:30. If we take a 5-minute break for all of us. Recess time. Want to get into that, please, or what? Art, would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Unless there's any major questions, I think we've all read this budget. I would make a motion to pass the budget and not continue trying to find $100. That's why we hired the finance director and the city manager and assistant finance director. That is my motion.
I'll second the motion.
Are you talking about all of the
Yes.
balance of the tabs, or just this one on legal?
No, the balance of the tabs. The big ones we've covered.
Okay, we have legal, we have police, police and fire commission, yeah, we can pass that. Engineering, does anybody want to talk about
Not engineering, I
engineering?
thought engineering was done.
Anthony?
No
The
engineering.
remaining departments that we have are legal, police, board and fire, and central services. Engineering, that was moved to the admin department, and that's just included just as a rollout, just like the IT department. So there are 4 departments left.
Tempted to walk.
Police?
Take a vote.
Well, how about if we just do them real quick like this?
Is there?
Well, we already have a motion and a second, so let's call the vote.
I didn't hear the question, I didn't hear the motion. Who made the second?
I did.
Alderman Lazaro.
Read off what's left then. Police,
What is left is the legal tab, police, board and fire, police and fire commission rather, and central services.
central services. Just checking to see if I had any notes in there.
Page 151.
Yes. I do have, well, I'll agree to pass by legal and police and fire commissioner and engineering. That's pretty well set too. I do have one question on the general, on central services. We didn't do central services, did we? I do have just a question on central services, if everybody doesn't mind.
No, that's fine.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
You got struck from motion.
Page 152.
Question after the motion.
Bill, on the contractual services, building maintenance, that's this building and it includes cleaning. Is that correct? Number 11, 42011.
Is correct.
Anyway, nope, okay. And then in commodities, we have maintenance for buildings. Which buildings is that?
In commodities, it is the replacement of, it's this building, it's the replacement of the HVAC rooftop units, lighting fixtures, and other miscellaneous building repairs that come across that we need to fix, fixing tile, fixing just general stuff that breaks throughout the year.
Okay, does anybody else have any? I think I have one question in capital project, well, we took care of that. I will have a voice vote as to the motion. Would you call roll, please? Does everybody remember what the motion is? To approve all the balance of the budget as is?
Alderman Woods?
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr.
Oh,
Wilson.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. I heard the word as is. I believe it should probably be as amended over the last two
Oh,
meetings.
yes, I
Yes.
apologize.
And-
As amended.
Eileen,
Yes.
Eileen, you have all
Make
the,
that motion?
all the
No, he
final,
has to agree to it.
you have all the final?
I'll agree to the change.
And I'll second it.
Okay.
The last few tabs, you have them all. Okay.
No, next week, Mr. Mayor, you get to take charge of the meeting.
I just wanted to make sure in the motion, she had, the final tabs that we had left.
I'm just joking.
No problem.
Oh, if you call roll, please.
Alderman Woods?
Yes.
Alderman Lazara?
Yes.
Alderman Winger?
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky?
Yes.
Alderman Shockey?
With thanks to Alderman Wolf and Woods and Alderman Lazara, yes.
Alderman Coles?
Yes.
Alderman Roy Wesley?
Okay, that takes care of the report and recommendations on the